At first glance, it appeared to be a post-apocalyptic landscape. Standing on blackened ground in the middle of a smoking paddock, Brevet Sergeant Amos Hughes scratched at his prematurely balding head. Around him, shafts of white smoke rose upward in thin spires, emanating from small stumps of wood and dried sheep shit. "If I didn't know any better, Cliff, I'd find this whole thing pretty symbolic," he said. Constable Cliff Rogers, recently seconded from the closest regional city, glanced quizzically at his superior. Symbolic? The situation was pretty weird, to be honest. Merely a week ago, he had left the boardroom of a front desk, and now, only a metre away, was the scorched body of a local farmer. Charred remnants of clothing melded with melted skin. "They were burning off," Amos began vaguely. In the short time he had been in the rural town of Hartton, Cliff had become accustomed to Amos's smug habit of educating a city slicker such as himself in the ways of the land. "Farmers do it every year, clearing the paddock of weeds and snails, ready for next planting season." "An accident then," Cliff ventured. So far he had chosen to not look too closely at the body. Amos exhaled loudly and shook his head. "I don't think so, Cliff. There's a gaping hole in his chest. Frank was shot. With a shotgun by the look of it. The fire didn't kill him. It raced over him quickly. No deep burns. Most of his clothes are still intact." Cliff thought of Frank's family, 2 grown sons and their wives, assembled back at the farmhouse with another police officer. Poor bastards. The younger generation had gathered in this spot only a few hours previously, preparing to burn off the pasture paddock as a team. And now the patriarch of iconic Hell's End Farm lay smouldering on the ground. How quickly life can change. "Nice guy by all accounts?" Cliff asked. "True blue local," Amos said. "The Barron family has been in the district for years." Cliff forced himself to glance down at the body. It lay on its side, one leg at an awkward angle and its chin resting on his chest. What remained of Frank Barron's wispy grey hair had singed black against his head. Cliff looked away and wiped his mouth. Behind them, another police car drove slowly into the paddock. "Let's leave it to these guys," Amos said. "We need to get statements from the rest of the family." Hell's End Farm had been held by the Barron family for over a century. The main homestead was nestled amongst a towering stand of river-red gums, between the gentle rising slopes of 2 hills. 2 smaller cottages, originally earmarked for workmen in the more profitable years of farming, were dwarfed by an assortment of sheds that had been randomly constructed over the years. The long driveway that stretched to the main road was lined with pine trees, planted by Jack Barron to celebrate the birth of his only son in the years following the Second World War. A son was even more important than the end of this great conflict. Hell's End had a new generation. Before the majestic lines of trees grew large enough to shade the cars that motored in and out the gravel driveway, everyone in the district agreed that, whether the paddocks held sprightly lambs or were filled with rich golden wheat, Hell's End Farm was a beautiful place.